Well, hello YouTube, Steve Pat with General Pat Bushcraft back with you, friends. I got another super exciting video. Today's video is the recap of episode 7, season 11. Stay tuned. Okay, friends, we're talking about Alone, season 11, episode 7, titled One Pike at a Time. Friends, there's 5 people that remain up there in the Arctic Circle, and you know every show starts with the famous quote. This one is from James Baldwin, and the quote is, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." All right, friends, day 23, 5 people remain, and the show starts off with Isaiah. It's 10:21 in the morning. Isaiah is 35 years old from West Virginia, USA. And friends, he's having some bad chest pains. He's working on that gill net that he found, and he's got that thing strung up on a long pole. But he's worried about the chest pains, friends. He's worried about a heart attack. Friends, he puts it on his deceased brother, asks his deceased brother what he should do. And right then he sees some geese flying south. He takes that as an omen from his brother, or a sign from his brother, friends. And on day 23, Isaiah taps out. All right, friends, now there's 4 people remaining. We got Sarah, we got William, we got Dub, and we got Timber. 3 men, 1 woman. And it's 2:23 in the afternoon, and the show goes over to Timber. He's 35 years old from Indiana, USA. And from his shelter, he sees a mama moose with twin calves. Gets out of his shelter and shows us some pretty good footage of that wonderful sight. That mama moose with two baby calves. He tells us he's got a good night's sleep and he's feeling much better. So he finishes his bed, fills it with some spruce boughs. He's got a beautiful Viking type shelter, friends, and he moves into his shelter permanently. That's his permanent shelter. We see him working with his silky saw, and those saws are super sharp, friends. And he tears the thumbnail off of one of those thumbs with that saw blade. So we see him doctor it up with some pitch pine, and he says, "Wow, my strategy now is just to slow down and rest. I've got plenty of food. I got my shelter pretty much done. I can afford to slow down and rest." So that's his strategy. Okay, friends, it's day 23 still. It's 2:12 in the afternoon. The show goes over to William. He's 49 years old from Labrador, Canada, and he's out hiking, finding rose hips, whatever little bit of rose hips are left before winter. And he finds a plastic 2-liter bottle, friends. And we know that these participants are allowed to keep whatever they can find. And we see him, he makes a joke and he says, "Oh, Willie got a piss pot." So he's gonna use that to go to the bathroom in, so he doesn't have to get out of his shelter at night. So good on William. He checks out the gill net down at the river, nothing in the gill net, so he takes the rest of that whitefish out of his food cache off of that long pole that's hanging out over the cliff. He says food is getting scarce and he's down to his last little bit of whitefish, so he sets a couple more rabbit snares. All right, friends, it's day 24 now, 2:16 p.m. The show goes over to Dub. He's 44 years old from Michigan, USA. It's 37 degrees. It's a cold day, cold, rainy day. He gets up, goes down to check the gill net. Once he's out there, he realizes it's not raining quite as bad as he thought, what it sounded like when he was in his shelter. And friends, he gets a big old 44-inch pike in the gill net. So good on Dub. Friends, about 6:55 p.m., about 7 o'clock that night, he gets out of his shelter to go get some water. and he sees a big bull moose on the other side of his lake. Grabs his bow and arrow, imitates a moose call, and he tries calling him in, friends. At 8:25 p.m., it gets too dark on him, friends. He was going to hunt that moose, but it got dark on him, so he heads back to the shelter. Probably a smart move on Dub. All right, friends, it's day 25, 8:31 p.m., and the show goes over to Timber. And he tells us that the wolves have been howling all night long. We even hear a wolf howling on his recording, friends. He gets up in the morning, finds wolf tracks, some fresh wolf tracks. So he decides to get his bow and arrow and go check on the moose kill site. Remember, Timber got that big bull moose. He goes over, on the way over to the moose kill site, he sees some big old fresh grizzly prints, grizzly bear tracks along the riverbank. He gets to the moose kill site and he finds that moose rib cage is totally gone. And the show shows us that footage of that grizzly bear grabbing that rib cage and pulling it into the willows. So he's over there at the moose kill site. He realizes he doesn't see any bears. He saw those fresh tracks, but he realizes, man, maybe I better get back to camp. On the way back to camp, he goes by the his food cache, and he shows us that old scent post. That old dead dry stick that he's got stuck in his food cache. And we see him, well, we don't see him, but we see pee going all over that scent post. And he tells us the strategy of the scent post, that the grizzly bears are going to come by and smell his scent and realize that it's somebody else's food cache and they can't have any of the food. Tells us about that scent post. All right, friends. Day 26, it's 8:58 in the morning. The show goes back over to Dub. It's 33 degrees, and he's out moose hunting. Remember, he saw that moose the night before and it got dark on him. So he got up in the morning and went out moose hunting. He's got good energy. He's feeling good. He doesn't see any moose, heads back to camp, and on the way back to camp, he sees a grouse. Boom. Shoots, nails the grouse, but he loses an arrow. All right, well, good on Dub. All right, friends, day 26, 12:05 p.m., just a little bit past noon, and the show goes over to Sarah. She's 48 years old from Alaska, USA, and she's in her shelter eating some grouse soup. She's lost 20 pounds so far, and remember, she at the end of the past show, she just got those 2 grouse. So she cuts a bunch of grouse trying to make that grouse last for her friends. She's only got 2 now. So we see her go out and she cuts a bunch of tall grass. And her strategy now is to grind up a lot of the grass seed and try to make some flour. Well, she grinds it up, makes a little bit of powder. She cooks a small biscuit, eats it, and she said, well, doesn't quite, it's getting there, but it doesn't quite taste right. And she's not quite there yet on the flour, but she might be on the right track. So good on Sarah. All right, friends, it's day 26, still 3:13 p.m., and the show goes over to William. He's working on his shelter. Everybody's fortifying their shelters now because they know winter's coming. His priority is to find food. So he makes a nice lure and he decides to go down fishing, friends. He's been having some pretty good luck catching pike. We see him throw his line out there. He's bringing it in, and we can see by his camera footage that a big old pike is following that thing in. The next cast, bang, he nails that big old pike. So good on William. He cleans that pike, takes some of it for his shelter, and he puts the rest of it in his food cache. Remember, he's got that long pole where he ties his food in his gator, and he's got it tied to a long pole hanging through a tree over a cliff. He thinks that's going to be a good food cache for him. We'll find out. Pretty good on William so far. Okay, friends, it's day 27 now, 11:02 in the morning. And Sarah, she's dreaming of Chinese food. She's sitting there braiding her hair in her shelter, and she's talking about some salty Chinese food. It's 28 degrees. She goes out and finds some beaver slides where they've been sliding in and out of the water. Remember, she tried to shoot one, lost her arrow, had to strip down and go out and wade out in that cold water and get her arrow back. That was early on in the show. Not this show, back around day 5, I think. So she decides to set some beaver snares, and she's braiding the wire, the snare wire, to make it stronger, because she's trying to catch one of North America's largest rodents, and these beavers get up to 60 pounds. So good on Sarah. All right, friends, it's day 27, 1:13 p.m. in the afternoon, and the show goes over to Dub. Dub's cleaning that grouse that he got. It's 32 degrees, starting to get a little bit cold. And this is the first bird that Dub has got since he's been there. First bird he's had in 27 days, friends. So he cleans that grouse, cooks it, eats some of it, and then he decides to go out looking for that arrow that he lost when he shot that grouse. Must have went right through him. And he finds the arrow, friends, out in the lake. And it's just out in the water, just past the frozen part. The lake's starting to freeze now. So he gets some paracord, friends, and he fishes that arrow out of the frozen part of the lake. So good on him. After he gets that arrow on the way back, friends, he hears a wolf howling, goes and checks it out, and just on the other side of the river, about 100 yards away, big old black wolf sitting there howling. And then he sees a big white wolf, another wolf, 3 wolves 100 yards away howling. And he doesn't know whether he should be scared or what. He's thinking maybe they're looking at him like food. So back to camp, continue eating that grouse for Dub. All right, friends, it's day 28 now, 9:23 in the morning. The show goes back over to William. He goes down, checks on his gill net and snares, and on the way down to the water, he finds a snowshoe hare on one of his snares. Good on William. So he's got a big old rabbit. Heads back to camp, cleans that rabbit, cooks that rabbit. He says this rabbit tastes good. We see him eat the brains, full of vitamins, nutrients, and minerals. And friends, the show shows us some video footage of that marten getting into his food cache. That long pole that he's got hanging through the tree over the cliff, the marten crawls out the pole, climbs down the paracord, and tries to get in his food cache, friends. Wow, I didn't think. One of you guys commented though on my videos and told me that that's not going to work well, and you guys were right. That marten got in that food cache. Wow, I'm shocked. All right, friends, it's day 29 now, 9:14 in the morning, and the show goes over to Timber. 33 degrees, it's cold and frosty day, and he decides to thatch his big Viking cabin. His cabin is looking awesome. He gets some frozen long grass, thatches and insulates that whole cabin, friends. And we see him do a skit, an awesome skit with the camera, friends. We see where he's acting like a Viking overlord, friends, and he's telling his minions to crown his lodge, and we see him put that big old moose rack in the middle of his lodge. Pretty funny skit that Timber got to show us. So good on Timber. The show ends right there, friends, with Timber's skit where he puts that big old moose rack on his lodge. It's a beautiful lodge, beautiful cabin, beautiful bushcraft cabin that he built, friends. The show ends right there. That's where my recap ends. Friends, I want to thank you guys for stopping by the channel. Before you leave, please consider subscribing. If you subscribe, hit that bell icon in the drop-down menu. Do select all, friends. I appreciate everything you do for the channel, all your views, all your likes, all your shares, but most importantly, all your comments. 4 people remain. We got 1 woman. We got Sarah. We got William. We got Dub, and we got Timber. Timber's got that moose, but Dub saw a moose. Everybody's looking pretty strong. Leave me a comment. Let me know who you think's gonna win this thing. I still got my money on Timber. All right, friends. Please, please don't depart from the faith. And if you haven't already, those of you that are on the fence, use your free will today, friends, and give your life to Christ. He died on the cross for you. He loves you very much. You don't have to get cleaned up. Come as you are. Do it today, and don't wait. All right. As always, God is good. God is great. I see y'all on the next video. Already got a date.